DMT is produced naturally during states of deep meditation and samadhi, or through entheogenic means. For example, ayahuasca is used in the shamanic traditions of South America to remove the veil between the inner and outer worlds. The word pineal itself has the same root as pine cone, because the pineal gland exhibits a similar spiral phyllotaxis pattern. This pattern, also known as the flower of life pattern, is common in ancient artwork depicting enlightened or awakened beings. When the pine cone image is seen in sacred artwork, it represents the awakened third eye, single-pointed consciousness, directing the flow of evolutionary energy. In Greek mythology, the worshippers of Dionysus carried a thyrsus, or giant staff, wrapped with spiraling vines topped with a pine cone, again representing Dionysian energy, or Kundalini Shakti, as it travels up the spine to the pineal body at the sixth chakra. In the heart of the Vatican, you might expect a giant sculpture of Jesus or Mary, but instead we find a giant pine cone statue, indicating that in Christian history, there may have been knowledge of the chakras in Kundalini, but for whatever reason it was kept from the masses. Darkness meditation has been used for thousands of years as a way to activate the sixth chakra in the area of the pineal gland. Activation of this center allows a person to be able to see their inner light. Whether it is the proverbial yogi or shaman retreating deep into a cave, or Taoist or Mayan initiate, or a Tibetan monk, all traditions incorporate a period of time during which one goes into the darkness. The pineal gland is the gateway to being able to experience one's subtle energy directly. Dolmens, or ancient portal tombs, are among the oldest remaining structures on Earth. Most date to the Neolithic period of 3000 to 4000 BC, and some in Western Europe are 7,000 years old. The dolmen was used to enter into perpetual meditation as a way for a human to bridge the inner and outer worlds. As one continues to meditate in total darkness, eventually one begins to observe inner energy or light as the third eye becomes active. The circadian rhythms, which are governed by the sun and moon channels, no longer control the functions of the body, and a new rhythm is established. In Egyptian iconography, once again the awakened consciousness is represented by the solar disk, seen above the heads of gods or awakened beings. The phyllotaxis pattern is the same pattern as can be found in a blooming lotus. It is the flower of life pattern, the seed of life. It is the fundamental pattern into which all forms fit. It is the very shape of space itself, or a quality inherent to Akasha. At one time in history, the flower of life symbol was prevalent all over Earth. The flower of life is found guarded by lions at the entrance of the most holy places in China and other parts of Asia. The 64 hexagrams of the I Ching often surround a yin-yang symbol, which is yet another way of representing the flower of life. Within the flower of life is the geometric basis for all of the Platonic solids, essentially every form that can exist. The ancient flower of life begins with the geometry of the Star of David, or upward and downward facing triangles. Or in 3D, these would be tetrahedral structures. This symbol is a yantra, a sort of program that exists within the universe. the machine that is generating our fractal world. We live our lives pursuing happiness out there, as if it is a commodity. We have become slaves to our own desires and craving. Happiness is not something that can be pursued or purchased like a cheap suit. This is Maya, illusion, the endless play of form. Everything we do is an attempt to create pleasure, to gain something that we want, or to push away something undesirable that we don't want. Even a simple organism like the paramecium does this. It is called response to stimulus. Unlike a paramecium, humans have more choice. We are free to think, and that is the heart of the problem. It is the thinking about what we want that has gotten out of control. The dilemma of modern society is that we seek to understand the world not in terms of archaic inner consciousness, but by quantifying and qualifying what we perceive to be the external world by using scientific means and thought. Thinking has only led to more thinking and more questions. We seek to know the innermost forces which create the world and guide its course, but we conceive of this essence as outside of ourselves, not as a living thing intrinsic to our own nature. Never in human history has there been so much thinking, and never has there been so much turmoil on the planet. Could it be that every time we think of a solution to one problem, we create two more problems? What good is all this thinking if it doesn't lead to greater happiness? Are we happier, more equanimous, more joyful as a result of all this thinking? Or does it isolate us, disconnect us from a deeper and more meaningful experience of life? Thinking, acting, and doing must be brought into balance with being. After all, we are human beings, not human doings. We want change, and we want stability at the same time. Our hearts have become disconnected from the spiral of life, the law of change, as our thinking minds drive us toward stability, security, and pacification of the senses. With a morbid fascination, we watch killings, tsunamis, earthquakes, and wars. We constantly try to occupy our mind, fill it with information. TV shows streaming from every conceivable device, games and puzzles, text messaging, and every possible trivial thing. We let ourselves become mesmerized with the endless stream of new images, new information, new ways to tantalize and pacify the senses. At times of quiet inner reflection, our hearts may tell us that there is more to life than our present reality, that we live in a world of hungry ghosts, endlessly craving, and never satisfied. We have created a maelstrom of data flying around the planet to facilitate more thinking, more ideas about how to fix the world, to fix the problems that only exist because the mind has created them. Thinking has created the whole big mess that we are in right now. We wage wars against diseases, enemies, and problems. The paradox is that whatever you resist persists. The more you resist something, the stronger it gets. Like exercising a muscle, you are actually strengthening the very thing you want to rid yourself of. So then, what is the alternative to thinking? What other mechanism can humans use to exist on this planet? Answering the question, who am I, is not simply a matter of describing what is on your business card. Like a dog chasing its tail, it is only the ego identity that wants to find an answer, a purpose. The truth of who you are does not need an answer, because all questions are created by the egoic mind. You are not your mind. The truth lies not in more answers, but in less questions. The belief in an external world, independent of the perceiving subject, is fundamental to science. But our senses only give us indirect information. Our notions about this mind-made physical world are always filtered through the senses, and therefore always incomplete. There is one field of vibration underlying all of the senses. People with a condition called synesthesia sometimes experience this vibratory field in different ways. Synesthetes can see sounds as colors or shapes, or associate qualities of one sense with another. Synesthesia refers to a synthesis or intermingling of the senses. The chakras in the senses are like a prism, filtering a continuum of vibration. All things in the universe are vibrating, but at different rates and frequencies. The Eye of Horus is made up of 6 symbols, each representing the senses. Like the ancient Vedic system, thought is considered to be a sense. Thoughts are received simultaneously as sensations are experienced on the body. They arise from the same vibratory source. Thinking is simply a tool, one of 6 senses. But we have elevated it to such a high status that we identify ourselves with our thoughts. In the last decade, great advances have taken place in the area of brain research. Scientists have discovered neuroplasticity, a term which conveys the idea that the physical wiring of the brain changes according to the thoughts moving through it. As Canadian psychologist Donald Hebb put it, neurons that fire together, wire together. Neurons wire together most when a person is in a state of sustained attention. What this means is that it is possible to direct your own subjective experience of reality. Literally, if your thoughts are ones of fear, worry, anxiety, and negativity, then you grow the wiring for more of those thoughts to flourish. If you direct your thoughts to be ones of love, compassion, gratitude, and joy, you create the wiring for repeating those experiences. But how do we do that if we are surrounded by violence and suffering? Isn't this some kind of delusion or wishful thinking? Neuroplasticity is not the same as the New Age notion that you create your reality by positive thinking. It is actually the same thing that the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago. Vipassana meditation, or insight meditation, could be described as self-directed neuroplasticity. But you experience it at the root level of sensation, at the vibratory or energetic level, without the prejudice or influence of thought. Through sustained attention at the root level of consciousness, the wiring for an entirely different perception of reality is created. We have got it backwards most of the time. We constantly let ideas about the outer world shape our neural networks. But our inner equanimity need not be contingent on external happenings. Bliss is the energy that responds to stillness. It comes from emptying consciousness of all content. The content of this bliss energy born of stillness is consciousness. A new consciousness of the heart. A consciousness that is connected to all that is.